Welcome to our channel. Hollywood Movie Review. The Super Mario Bros. Movie 2023 Movie Review. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is a 2023 American animated adventure comedy film based on Nintendo's Mario video game franchise. Directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic and written by Matthew Fogel, the film stars an ensemble voice cast led by Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, Seth Rogen, and Fred Armisen. It was produced by Illumination and Nintendo. The film follows brothers Mario and Luigi, two Italian-American plumbers who get separated after being transported to another world and become entangled in a war between the Mushroom Kingdom, led by Princess Peach, and the Dark Lands, led by the King of the Koopas, Bowser. As a result of the critical and commercial failure of the live-action film Super Mario Bros. 1993, Nintendo became reluctant to license its intellectual properties for film adaptations. Despite this, Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto became interested in developing another film during the development of the Virtual Console service. Through Nintendo's work with Universal Parks and Resorts to create Super Nintendo World, he met with Illumination CEO Chris Meledandri. By 2016, they were discussing a Mario film and, in January 2018, Nintendo announced that they would produce it with Illumination and Universal. Production was underway by 2020, and the cast was announced in September 2021. The Super Mario Bros. Movie premiered at Regal LA Live on April 1, 2023, and was released in the United States on April 5, by Universal Pictures. The film received mixed reviews from critics, and grossed $1.360 billion worldwide, breaking multiple box office records, including becoming the highest-grossing film based on a video game and the first film based on a video game to reach the billion-dollar mark. It finished its theatrical run as the second highest-grossing film of 2023, the third highest-grossing animated film, the 15th highest-grossing film of all time, and the highest-grossing film produced by Illumination. At the 81st Golden Globe Awards, the film received nominations for Best Animated Feature Film, Best Original Song, and Cinematic Box Office Achievement, a category introduced at the same ceremony. A sequel, The Super Mario Galaxy Movie, was released in 2026. Italian-American brothers Mario and Luigi operate a struggling plumbing business in Brooklyn, to the derision of their ex-foreman Spike and the disapproval of their father. After seeing a significant water main leak on the news, Mario and Luigi go to the sewer to fix it, but are sucked into a warp pipe and separated. Mario lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, ruled by Princess Peach, while Luigi arrives in the Dark Lands, ruled by the evil Koopa King Bowser, who seeks to marry Peach and will destroy the Mushroom Kingdom using a superstar if she refuses. Seeing Mario as competition for Peach's love, Bowser imprisons Luigi to threaten him. Mario meets Toad, who takes him to Peach. Peach plans to ally with the primate family of Kongs to help defeat Bowser, and trains Mario before allowing him and Toad to travel along. During their journey, she tells Mario that she ended up in the Mushroom Kingdom as a baby, where the Toads took her in and eventually made her their leader. In the Jungle Kingdom, King Cranky Kong agrees to help if Mario defeats his son, Donkey Kong, in a fight. Despite initially being overpowered by Donkey Kong's strength, Mario defeats him using a catsuit. Mario, Peach, Toad, and the Kong royal family use go-karts B to drive back to the Mushroom Kingdom, where Bowser's army ambushes them on Rainbow Road. When a blue-shelled Koopa general destroys part of the road, Mario and Donkey Kong plummet into the ocean while the other Kongs are captured. Peach and Toad return to the Mushroom Kingdom and urge the citizens to evacuate. Bowser arrives aboard his flying castle and proposes to Peach, who reluctantly accepts after Bowser's advisor Kamek tortures Toad with magic. Mario and Donkey Kong, having been swallowed by a giant eel, learn they both want the respect of their fathers. They escape the eel by riding a rocket barrel from Donkey Kong's cart and hurry to Bowser and Peach's wedding. At the wedding ceremony, Bowser intends to sacrifice all of his prisoners, including Luigi and the Kongs, in Peach's honor. Toad smuggles an ice flower into Peach's bouquet, which she uses to freeze both Bowser and the chain, lowering the prisoners into the lava. Mario and Donkey Kong fight their way through Bowser's army and free the prisoners, with Mario using a tanuki suit to save Luigi. Bowser frees himself and launches a bomber built to destroy the Mushroom Kingdom, but Mario knocks it off course and directs it into the warp pipe, where it detonates, creating a vacuum that sucks Bowser's castle and its occupants into Brooklyn. Upon being wrapped up and taken back to Brooklyn, Mario attempts to grab the star, but the enraged Bowser violently beats him up in the process. He also attacks and defeats Peach, Toad, and Donkey Kong. Mario sees his business commercial on a television and is motivated to face Bowser, who almost incinerates him. Luigi uses a manhole cover to save Mario, and they both grab the superstar. Becoming temporarily invincible, they defeat the army, destroy Bowser's castle, and incapacitate him. Peach shrinks Bowser with a blue mini mushroom before Toad imprisons him in a jar. Mario and Luigi are hailed as heroes by Brooklyn's populace, including their parents and Spike, and bid their farewell to Donkey Kong before moving into a house in the Mushroom Kingdom. Sometime later, the Mario brothers begin a day of plumbing work together. After the critical and commercial failure of the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Film adaptation, the Japanese video game company Nintendo became wary of licensing its properties for film adaptations. According to Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, the idea for a new Mario film came from bringing their older games to the Virtual Console and other services. Such transitions took time for the company, and Miyamoto recognized that our content business would be able to develop even further if we were able to combine our long-beloved software with that of video assets, and use them together for extended periods. Miyamoto knew that the process of making a film was far different from that of making a video game, and wanted a film expert to lead the effort. Following the November 2014 hack of Sony Pictures, emails between producer Avi Arad, studio chief Amy Pascal, TriStar Pictures head Tom Rothman, and Sony Pictures Animation president of production Michel Rameau-Couillet were released, revealing that Sony had been attempting to secure the film rights to the Mario franchise for several years. Arad visited Nintendo in Tokyo in February and July 2014 in an attempt to secure a deal. In October, Arad emailed Pascal and said he had closed the deal with Nintendo. Pascal suggested recruiting Genndy Tartakovsky, director of Sony Pictures Animation's Hotel Transylvania, 2012, to help develop the project, while Couillet said she could think of 3 to 4 movies right out of the gate and hoped to build a Mario empire. However, after the emails leaked, Arad denied that a deal had been made, stating that negotiations had only begun. BuzzFeed News noted that the emails did not take into account potential conflicts with Sony Pictures' corporate sibling Sony Interactive Entertainment, one of Nintendo's chief competitors. Through Nintendo's work with Universal Parks and Resorts to create Mario-based attractions, later resulting in Super Nintendo World, Miyamoto met Chris Meledandri, founder of Universal Pictures' Illumination Animation division. Miyamoto found Meledandri's creative process similar to his own and felt he would be the proper lead for a Mario film. They had started more earnest discussions by 2016, knowing that if they felt it would not work, they could easily walk away. In November 2017, reports emerged that Nintendo was collaborating with Universal and Illumination to make an animated Mario film. Then Nintendo president Tatsumi Kimishima clarified that a deal had not been finalized, but that an announcement would come soon. Kimishima hoped that if the deal were successful, a 2020 release date would be possible. In January 2018, Nintendo announced that the film would progress with Miyamoto and Meledandri co-producing. Meledandri said the film was a priority for Illumination and that it would most likely come out in 2022. He added that Miyamoto would be front and center during production. In January 2020, Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa stated that the film was moving along smoothly with an expected 2022 release date. Furukawa also said Nintendo would own the rights to the film, and both Nintendo and Universal would fund the production. In August 2021, it emerged that Teen Titans Go! Creators Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic were directing the film after the discovery of an Illumination Animators LinkedIn profile that included the film in their list. Following the full casting announcement, Horvath and Jelenic were confirmed to be directing, with Matthew Fogel attached as the screenwriter after previously writing Illumination's Minions: The Rise of Gru, 2022. According to Kari Payton, who has collaborated with Horvath and Jelenic on various projects at Warner Bros. Animation, the duo flew to Illumination Studios Paris a month after the release of their first feature film, Teen Titans Go! To the movies, in September 2018. In September 2022, it was announced by New York Comic Con that the film's teaser trailer would be released on October 6, 2022. The teaser formally revealed the film's title, The Super Mario Bros. Movie. Jelenic and Horvath wanted their work on the film to be the opposite of the irreverent Teen Titans Go!, aiming to develop a faithful adaptation of the games, which they both felt had not been done before, as well as something more cinematic and more emotional than Teen Titans Go! When people probably first heard our names attached to the movie, they expected we'd do the Teen Titans Go! Treatment to Mario, said Jelenic. But every project we come to, we make new choices depending on who the audience is and what we're going for. Horvath asserted that Nintendo involved themselves with every aspect of the production, from story to visual development to the animation. The duo wanted the film to serve as an origin story for Mario and Luigi, opting to portray them as blue-collar guys by focusing on their previous backgrounds as Italian-American plumbers from New York City in early games, specifically Brooklyn, as in older American media. The duo chose to interchange Princess Peach's and Luigi's roles from the games, with Peach helping Mario rescue a kidnapped Luigi, because they felt having them in their original roles was too straightforward. The duo drew inspiration from Super Mario 3D World, 2013, and its portrayal of Peach as a playable character, stating they wanted to focus on her role as the Mushroom Kingdom's monarch and how strong that person would need to be to protect the Toads. For Bowser, they decided to make that character scary, but the other side of Bowser is somebody who's vulnerable and funny. In February 2021, Mario voice actor Charles Martinet said the possibility of reprising his role in the film would be a marvelous thing, and that if he were asked to voice Mario he would go in and play with great joy and happiness. In August 2021, Sebastian Maniscalco revealed he was voicing Spike, Mario, and Luigi's boss from the game Wrecking Crew, 1985. During a September 2021 Nintendo Direct presentation, Shigeru Miyamoto announced that Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, Seth Rogen, Kevin Michael Richardson, Fred Armisen, and Maniscalco would headline the voice cast, and that Martinet would be featured in surprise cameos. The announcement was met with a mixed reaction from fans. While some welcomed the idea of celebrity actors voicing the characters, others questioned and criticized the choices, in particular Pratt as Mario instead of Martinet, who had voiced the character since 1991, or an Italian actor. Martinet voices the brother's father as well as a citizen of Brooklyn named Giuseppe, the former using Martinet's initial tough Italian-American voice for Mario and the latter using Mario's game voice. Additionally, voice acting veterans Rino Romano, John DiMaggio, and Jessica DeSico voiced Mario and Luigi's uncles Tony and Arthur, and mother, respectively, as the intention was to cast actors of Italian ancestry for the brothers' family. The casting choices led to widespread internet memes surrounding the movie. Meledandri said Pratt would not be voicing Mario in a thick Italian accent as Martinet had traditionally done. Voice actor Kari Payton described Pratt's original voice during production as a New York, Italian guy and a cousin to The Sopranos, but the accent was scrapped for sounding too similar to the character Tony Soprano. Voice actress Tara Strong criticized Pratt's casting and expressed a preference for Martinet to voice Mario instead, lamenting what she described to be Hollywood's disregard for professional voice actors. In response to criticism of Pratt's casting, Horvath stated, "For us, it made total sense. He's really good at playing a blue-collar hero with a ton of heart. For the way that Mario is characterized in our film, he's perfect for it." Charlie Day originally wanted to voice Luigi with a New York accent similar to the film Goodfellas, 1990. The accent was scrapped when the directors told him it sounded too similar to the gangster film, to which Day responded to the change with, "All right. I think you're wrong, but fine." Plot. Details were kept secret from the actors during recording, according to Day, who noted he had to record his dialogue in many different ways, after which the directors selected the version they believed would be best suited for the film. Upon the trailer's release, both Peyton and Eric Bauza confirmed their parts in the film. Peyton voices the Penguin King and Bauza voices the Toad General. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Peyton recorded his lines in a closet at his home, though he was unsure if he would appear in the final cut. In response to backlash for voicing Donkey Kong in his normal speaking voice, Rogan explained, "I was very clear that I don't do voices, and if you want me to be in this movie, then it's going to sound like me, and that's it." That was the beginning and end of that conversation. He added further, "I think in the film and in the game, all you seem to know about Donkey Kong is that he throws barrels and does not like Mario very much. And that's what I ran with." The film was animated by Illumination Studios Paris in Paris, France. Production was underway by September 2020, with animation ending in October 2022. Jelinek and Horvath wanted the animation to juggle stylized animation with realism, with Horvath claiming that there are moments of cartoony fun, but we wanted it to feel like a big adventure film and that there are stakes and maybe you believe that these characters can die, so they're not super squashy and super stretchy, and we used consistent volume on the characters to make them feel a little more grounded. 30 For the go-karts featured in the film, the directors worked with a vehicle design artist and a team at Nintendo to create go-karts that fit their portrayal in the film while drawing inspiration from their portrayal in the Mario Kart games, particularly Rainbow Road. In an interview with GameSpot, Horvath said that he and Jelinek took a blockbuster approach when directing the film's action sequences, consider Mario more of an action game. So we wanted to reflect that action sensibility. The pair brought in artists they had previously worked with from their television background, and credited head of story Ed Scudder with storyboarding the Rainbow Road sequence, which they also described as the film's most technically challenging. The road itself was a visual effect, and every shot of it had to go through the visual effects department, which was time-consuming and expensive. Donkey Kong's design was changed for the first time since the video game Donkey Kong Country, 1994. The new design was influenced by the character's redesign in Donkey Kong Bonanza, 2025, which was in development during the film's production. For Mario's family, Horvath and Jelinek were given early designs of Mario by Nintendo as references. They ended up using slightly altered versions of those designs in the film. Jason Hanel, senior colorist at Company 3, fine-tuned the Super Mario Bros. Movie's visuals using DaVinci Resolve. While Illumination's animation already controlled lighting and color, Hanel made final scene-by-scene adjustments to enhance realism and maintain consistency. He adjusted skin tones, clothing, and environments to counter unintended shifts from digital lighting. The transition from Brooklyn's realism to the Mushroom Kingdom's fantasy was refined through color grading, with effects like digital lens flares and atmospheric lighting reinforcing a cinematic feel. The dark lands shadows and black levels were finalized in post-production to achieve the intended eerie tone. During an October 2022 Nintendo Direct presentation, Meledandri confirmed that Brian Tyler was set to compose the film's score. Tyler worked closely with longtime Mario composer Koji Kondo to incorporate themes from the games. He described the composition as big, featuring an orchestra, choir, and bands, as well as Italian instruments, accordions, live drums, mandolins whistling human voices, and 8-bit sounds. Mixing took place at Skywalker Sound, where Kondo and Miyamoto responded positively to a 15-minute suite of new themes Tyler had written. The film's music references leitmotifs from Super Mario Bros. 3, 1989, Super Mario 64, 1996, and Super Mario 3D Land, 2011, among other Mario games. Songs from Jack Black and Keegan-Michael Key were improvised for the film. Black Hydra composed the music for its official trailer, Super Mushroom, based on the Super Mario Bros. Theme. The instrumental was released on November 30, 2022, on YouTube. In a March 2023 video, Seth Rogen shared that Donkey Kong was introduced in the film accompanied by the title theme music from Donkey Kong 64, 1999, DK Rap, composed by Grant Kirkhope. In contrast to the licensed songs used in the film, Kirkhope did not receive credit for DK Rap in the film's end credits, an oversight the composer found disappointing. Black co-wrote the song Peaches, wherein Bowser professes his love for Princess Peach, alongside the directors, editor Eric Osmond, and song producer John Spiker. Having Bowser perform a love song was Black's idea. Peaches was released on April 7, 2023, with a music video directed by Cole Bennett. According to Black, it was filmed in a few hours. On its release, Peaches was number 61 on the iTunes streaming chart. It later appeared on the Billboard Hot 100, debuting at number 83 and peaking at number 56. On October 6, 2022, the teaser trailer was released live in a Nintendo Direct presentation. In a short questions and answers period following the trailer reveal at New York Comic Con, Jack Black stated that Bowser has a musical side in the film, teasing a theme for the character. The teaser trailer received over 3 million views in 24 hours. Journalists generally praised the trailer's visuals and tone, as well as Black and Key's performances as Bowser and Toad. However, Pratt's performance as Mario was described as lacking in emotion and sounding too similar to his normal speaking voice. Vic Hood from TechRadar noted a slight New York accent in Mario's lines, calling it a possible throwback to Mario's depictions in American media such as the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, 1989, and the 1993 film, before Charles Martinet debuted as the character's official voice actor in Mario's Game Gallery, 1995, where he spoke full dialogue for extended periods of time. In a newsletter from The Guardian, the response to Pratt's voice was likened to the backlash against the first trailer of Sonic the Hedgehog, 2020, on November 29. The first official trailer was shown in a Nintendo Direct. Public reactions were still largely favorable, though online discourse continued to center on Pratt's performance as Mario. On December 8, the first clip of the film, showing Toad guiding Mario through the Mushroom Kingdom and to the entrance to Peach's castle, was revealed at the Game Awards 2022. The Verge's Ash Parrish commented, "Despite the skepticism surrounding Chris Pratt's performance as Mario, the movie's visuals, and I cannot stress enough, only the visuals look incredible." On January 29, 2023, a preview clip of the film was released during the NFC Championship game. Some entertainment news sites pointed out the addition of Rogen's iconic laugh heard as Donkey Kong in the clip. Emma Roth from The Verge commented, "I'm pleasantly surprised at how well his voice, and laugh, suits the character," while Luke Plunkett from Kotaku commented, "Seth Rogen has been hired to, just be Seth Rogen." On February 12, a commercial for the film was released during Super Bowl 57, featuring a rendition of the title theme from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. A corresponding website which was featured in the trailer was also released, which advertises the Super Mario Bros. Plumbing service from the film as if it were, according to Plunkett, a struggling small business servicing the Brooklyn and Queens areas. The Super Mario Bros. Movie held its world premiere at Regal LA Live in Los Angeles, California on April 1, 2023, with the cast and crew in attendance. It was released theatrically in the United States on April 5, 2023, and later in Japan on April 28, in both regular formats and in IMAX 2D and 3D, with a runtime of 92 minutes. The film was previously scheduled to be released on December 21, 2022 and April 7, 2023, the former of which was taken over by DreamWorks Animation's Puss in Boots: The Last Wish in response to the film's delay to the later date. On February 28, 2023, it was announced that the film would be released 2 days earlier, on its current date, to more than 60 markets, while maintaining the April 28 date for Japan and stating that additional markets are to follow during April and May. It released in 65+ countries on dates ranging from April 5 to 7. It was released on April 26 in South Korea and on May 26 in Poland. On May 11, 2023, the Motion Picture Association, MPA, collaborated with the U.S. Embassy in Kuala Lumpur to organize a special screening of the Super Mario Bros. Movie in honor of World Intellectual Property Day. The Super Mario Bros. Movie was released on digital download on May 16, 2023, and was officially released on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, and DVD on June 13 in the US, with some early sales starting on June 6. The film was released on these formats in the UK on July 24. The film was made available to stream on Universal's Peacock streaming service on August 3, 2023. As part of an 18-month deal with Netflix for Universal's animated films, the film streamed on Peacock for the first 4 months of the pay TV window, before moving to Netflix for the next 10 beginning on December 3, and returning to Peacock for the remaining 4 beginning in October 2024. Between January and June 2024, the film amassed 80 million views, making it the 4th most watched film on Netflix for the first half of 2024. On April 30, 2023, a pirated copy of the film was leaked onto Twitter and was viewed by at least 9 million users in roughly 7 hours, before being removed by moderators. The incident raised concerns about Twitter's anti-piracy ability, staff reductions, and potential abuse of its private tools, as it was only made possible by a feature that allowed Twitter Blue subscribers to upload high-quality videos of up to 1 hour in length. The Super Mario Bros. Movie grossed $574.9 million in the United States and Canada, and $785.7 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $1.360 billion. It also became the first film based on a video game to gross $1 billion worldwide, the highest grossing animated film of 2023, and the second highest grossing film of 2023 after Barbie. It became the highest grossing film based on a video game after just 1 week of release, for which it earned a Guinness World Record. In May 2023, it overtook Minions, 2015, to become the highest grossing film produced by Illumination. Deadline Hollywood calculated the film's net profit as $559 million, accounting for production budgets, marketing, talent participations, and other costs, box office grosses, television and streaming, and home media revenues, placing it first on their list of 2023's most valuable blockbusters. In the United States and Canada, the Super Mario Bros. Movie was released alongside Air, and was initially projected to gross roughly $125 million from 4,025 theaters in its 5-day opening weekend. After strong daily earnings, 5-day estimates rose from $141 million to $191 million. The film ultimately debuted with $146.4 million over the 3-day weekend and $204.6 million in 5 days. The Super Mario Bros. Movie, at the time, became the top opening weekend for a video game adaptation. This was later surpassed by a Minecraft movie, 2025, another video game film starring Black, 2 years later. It was the 3rd highest Easter opening weekend of all time, behind Furious 7, 2015, and Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, 2016. The film became Illumination's largest opening weekend ever and had the biggest opening weekend for a 2023 film. Overall, the Super Mario Bros. Movie generated the third highest domestic opening weekend for any animated film. It overperformed in other territories, making $173 million for a global opening weekend of $375 million, surpassing Frozen 2's 2019 record. Furthermore, it surpassed Warcraft 2016 to have the highest worldwide opening weekend for any video game adaptation. The film made $92.5 million in its second weekend and $59.9 million in its third, both the highest ever for an animated film. The film continued to dominate the box office in its fourth weekend, grossing $40 million and crossing the global $1 billion mark on April 30th. It became the fifth film of the pandemic era to cross this mark, as well as the first animated film to do so since Frozen 2 in 2019. In its fifth weekend, the film grossed $18.6 million, finishing in second place, and also became the 19th film to surpass $500 million at the US and Canadian box office. Outside the United States and Canada, the Super Mario Bros. Movie grossed $172.8 million in its opening weekend, setting records for the largest animated film debut in 10 markets and the biggest video game adaptation opening in 44 markets. The film maintained strong box office performance, earning $102.5 million in its second weekend across 71 markets, followed by $70.7 million in its third weekend from 78 markets. In its fourth weekend, it added $68.3 million from 80 territories, including a $14.3 million debut in Japan, the highest opening for an animated studio film in the country. The film's highest grossing international markets included Japan, $101.4 million, Mexico, $85.4 million, the United Kingdom, $67.9 million, France, $62.8 million, Germany, $56.2 million, and Australia, $34.6 million. In Mexico, it became the highest grossing film of all time, surpassing Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 59% of 292 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 5.7/10. The website's consensus reads, "While it's nowhere near as thrilling as turtle tipping your way to 128 lives, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is a colorful albeit thinly plotted animated adventure that has about as many Nintendos as Nintendon's." Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 46 out of 100, based on 53 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore awarded the film an A on an A+ to F scale, while Post-Track reported that 94% of viewers gave it a positive score, and 82% said they would recommend it. Miyamoto felt that the critics who gave the film low ratings contributed to the film's success and creating the buzz around it. Ross Boname of Collider gave a positive review, writing, "In many ways, the Super Mario Bros. Movie reminds of Wreck-It Ralph and the glee that came from seeing these characters on screen." Writing for the datebook section of the San Francisco Chronicle, Zaki Hassan said he enjoyed the visuals but felt the film's strong adherence to and copious references to the games left it lacking in narrative, and that it tried too hard to avoid the failures of the 1993 film, calling it a blandly efficient piece of brand management. IGN's Tom Jorgensen praised the film's energy, its musical score despite the inclusion of shoehorned pop songs, and its visuals for setting a very high bar. Kyle Anderson of Nerdist celebrated the animation for its game accuracy and called Illumination the perfect choice to make Mario movies, but opined that those expecting something akin to the Lego Movie might be left a bit cold due to lack of a plot outside the main beats given the film's short runtime. Soren Anderson of the Seattle Times commented that, while the film succeeded in appealing to the Mario fan base by creating the feeling of being inside a video game, he found the characters to be lacking in personality and criticized their voice performances, remarking, Everyone expresses themselves at the tops of their voices, sound, and fury signifying not a whole lot. Brian Tallarico of RoachRebert.com, a self-described lifelong fan, wrote that the vocal performances were uniformly mediocre, and that the film doesn't reflect the franchise's creativity in the slightest. The Los Angeles Times' Katie Walsh praised Black's performance as Bowser but criticized both Pratt and Day's lead performances of Mario and Luigi as so unremarkable that it could have been anyone at all. Callum Marsh, writing for the New York Times, criticized Pratt's performance as grating and unctuous while describing the overall film as bland, witless, and flagrantly pandering. Christy Putko from Mashable commended the fan service and music but was critical of the writing, the characters, and Pratt's lack of accent, commenting whatever voice Pratt is doing isn't Brooklyn, and it isn't anything particularly specific, consistent, or exciting. Screen Rant's Molly Freeman praised the film for being a love letter to fans but criticized it for offering little else, describing most of the voice cast as fun with Black's Bowser being a standout. Josh Spiegel from /Film considered the film's portrayal of Princess Peach as a capable, powerful guide for Mario, a positive change from her video game portrayals as a damsel in distress, but argued that it felt more fitting for a film from 25 years ago, not from 2023. Vulture's Alison Wilmore criticized the portrayal of Princess Peach in the movie for only being a winsome blonde whose main quality is being so good at everything. Collier Jennings from Collider blamed the film for causing Peach to have fallen victim to the girl boss factor, considering that it attempted to create a well-rounded female character but failed to give her personality traits aside from girl bossing, criticizing the film for not giving the character much in the way of flaws, let alone any personality traits aside from being a badass. In May 2021, Furukawa said that Nintendo was interested in producing more animated films based on its intellectual properties if the Mario Bros. Film was successful. In a Variety cover story before the film's release, producer Chris Meledandri was asked about potential sequels, or projects adapted from other Nintendo properties, and answered, "Our focus right now is entirely on bringing the film out to the audience, and at this time, we're not prepared to talk about what's coming in the future." On April 21, 2023, following the film's box office success, Nintendo stated that there would be more films based on their properties, though they did not directly confirm a sequel to the Super Mario Bros. Movie. In June 2023, Pratt stated that while news on a sequel would come soon, development on the project had been put on hold due to the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike, saying that it would only resume once the writers felt comfortable moving forward. In November, it was revealed that Universal was making plans to build a larger franchise around the film while also confirming a sequel. On March 10, 2024, as part of Mario Day celebrations, Miyamoto and Meledandri officially announced a sequel, along with a release date of April 3, 2026 in the United States and more dates throughout April for other territories. Horvath, Jelinek, and Fogel returned as co-directors and screenwriter respectively. Meledandri stated that Illumination's team was in the process of storyboarding and developing set designs for new environments. In October 2024, Keegan-Michael Key mentioned that the sequel would be broader in scope and will feature some new folks that are old favorites and some folks that I think are really deep cuts. On May 13, 2025, NBC Universal listed the sequel under the title Super Mario World, which was later removed. A Nintendo Direct presentation on September 12, 2025, announced the film as the Super Mario Galaxy movie. A second Nintendo Direct on November 12, 2025, premiered the sequel's first trailer. Multiple voice actors have expressed interest in spin-offs based on their characters. In February 2022, Charlie Day expressed interest in reprising his role as Luigi in a Luigi's Mansion film and reiterated his interest in March 2023. That same month, Anya Taylor-Joy expressed interest in a possibility of a spin-off film revolving around Princess Peach. In April 2023, Seth Rogen expressed interest in Donkey Kong Country, 1994, forming the basis of future works, stating it created a lot of opportunity for a spin-off film. On July 13, 2025, a copyright registration for Untitled Donkey Kong project was filed by Nintendo and Universal. In April 2026, following the release of the Super Mario Galaxy movie, Miyamoto stated that there were no plans for a crossover film based on the Super Smash Bros. Video game series, saying, "I'll say that unlike something like Super Smash Bros., I don't think you'll have a situation where all Nintendo characters would be joining. You may think of Mario and his brother, Luigi, as a couple of thickly accented Italian plumbers with bright, monogrammed outfits and bushy mustaches. But hey, all of that is just for the commercials. I mean, if you're gonna break away and start your own plumbing business in Brooklyn, ya gotta have a shtick, right? Something people will remember. And as goofy as it sounds, that's say theirs. Except for the mustaches, that is. All the men in their family are blessed with fabulous mustache-growing genes, Don Chano. However, even with a fake persona and a flashy pair of soup strainers, Mario and Luigi's business isn't going so well. There's always something that goes a bit sideways during their jobs. Of course, Mario still holds a dream in his heart. He is convinced that if they stick together, he and his brother can be great. Hey, they may even save Brooklyn someday. Plumbing-wise, that is. And then Mario spots a newscast on TV and sits up with a flush of excitement. A huge water main has cracked open downtown, and the city is having a tough time stopping the flood. This could be the Mario brothers' chance. Problem is, once Mario and Luigi get to the source of the city's emergency, they end up being washed into the wrong place and down the wrong pipe. And before you can say wahoo, they find themselves sucked into some oddly colorful magical dimension, hidden down deep under Brooklyn. Who woulda thunk it? Mario lands in a mushroom kingdom ruled over by a pretty princess in pink named Peach. Which is, frankly, not such a bad turn of events. But, not everything is peachy. Mario has some pressing questions to answer. What is this place? Where did Luigi go? Who's this dangerous, fire-breathing King Bowser that the mushroomy residents are all afraid of? How can Mario get Princess Peach to give him the time of day? One thing's for sure, Mario has never been a sit back and watch the water drip kinda guy. If he wants answers and solutions, he's gonna step up with a wrench in hand and work 'em out. Mario, Luigi and Princess Peach all fight to protect the residents of the Mushroom Kingdom. And they're willing to give their all to protect one another. Peach steps up alone to face a threatening army in order to give her people more time to escape, for instance. And Luigi grabs a manhole cover, taking the brunt of an attack, to shield Mario from Bowser's flames. For Mario's part, we see him risk his life to save Donkey Kong from drowning, even though they were at odds with each other. Peach finds herself quite taken with Mario, in fact not because he's tall and handsome or an incredible fighter, but because he's sincere, kind, and refuses to give up. Mario and Luigi also have a special brotherly bond. Luigi is something of an accident-prone mess-up at times. But Mario resolutely declares, "Nothing can hurt us as long as we're together." And indeed, the brothers are a much more formidable force together. We learn that both Mario and Donkey Kong are bothered by a seeming lack of respect from their fathers. But by story end, both dads step forward, at different times, to publicly praise their sons for the brave and upright choices they make. Even though Bowser is a bully-like ruler who's not afraid to fire blast his foes, at his core he's really seeking Peach's approval. He declares that he'd actually like nothing better than to simply marry her in a fairytale wedding. But, of course, his destructive choices belie any small sighing positives that might peek through in his character. The magical realms that Mario and Luigi slip into are never really explained, apart from Peach mentioning that there's a huge universe out there with a lot of galaxies. In fact, she notes that she herself stumbled into the Mushroom Kingdom when she was just a little girl. And the mushroomy toad residents there raised her and then made her their princess. Later in the movie, the magical force that drew Mario and Luigi into that foreign world is reversed, sending Mushroom Kingdom characters into Brooklyn. It's not spiritual, per se, but both Bowser's visage and his dark, floating volcanic lair have a very foreboding and perhaps even devilish-looking vibe to them. It's also a bit reminiscent of Mordor for Lord of the Rings. That darkness is offset somewhat by Bowser's goofy minions. But sensitive young viewers might be frightened by Bowser's foreboding appearance. A scene early in the film has some of Bowser's minions crawling up out of the ground to pursue Luigi through a dark forest in a way that's reminiscent of zombie movies, another scene that could be intense for young or sensitive viewers. Both Mario and Bowser find Princess Peach to be quite appealing from first sight. And it's obvious that Peach kinda thinks Mario is pretty special, too. Bowser practices his wedding proposal to Princess Peach by dressing up his male wizard like Peach and having him role-play her response in a scene that's played for laughs, and which doesn't seem to be making a political statement, though some might interpret it otherwise. Once Mario and Luigi find themselves in Peach's magical realm, the peril of their situation increases dramatically. It's a cartoony peril but could at times be stressful for younger viewers. That peril is reinforced by threats Bowser and some of his henchmen make to various people. Someone says, "This guy's brother is going to die imminently." Another says, "Mario, you're a dead man." Bowser also blows out flamethrower-like bursts of fire that melt an icy castle and burn up a variety of things, including a Koopa that's transformed from flesh to animated skeleton form. He declares his plans to conquer and rule everything. He sends out his army of Koopas and Ghost Guys and Dry Bones to attack Mario, Peach, and the Good Guy army. These battlers smash into each other in Mario Karts, as well as punching and bashing at one another. Vehicles explode and are smashed. A large group of skeleton-like Dry Bones chase and grab at Luigi. Donkey Kong and Mario jump into battle with each other, and Kong pounds the plumber around, smashing him with barrels and throwing him into walls. It's only when Mario dons a catsuit that he comes back with quick scratching attacks. Mario also gets thumped around repeatedly as he tries to make his way through Peach's obstacle course filled with spikes, clubs and traps. Again, none of these attacks or thumping falls are bloody or more than cartoony bashes, but the skirmishes can be frenetic at times. And after one pounding battle with Bowser, Mario looks pretty beaten up and bruised until he regroups and steps out once more. Elsewhere, Bowser intends to destroy a city with a large bomb. And in the real world of Brooklyn, he sends vehicles flying, endangers a large crowd of people and blasts things with fire. But in the end, his destructive plot is foiled. On a more intimate level, Bowser slams a piano's wooden keyboard cover down on a sidekick's fingers and tells him, "Pain is the best teacher." He declares that he will kill Mario and plans to kill Luigi to set Mario back on his heels. Bowser also decides to sacrifice a large group of prisoners by lowering their cages into a lake of lava. "I'll be ritualistically sacrificing them in your honor," he tells Peach. The cages are lowered and begin to melt, but the prisoners are saved. Mario and others bop yellow question blocks that hold magic mushrooms. They gobble them down and are given special power UPS. One can make you bigger, another smaller, for instance. We also see the mushrooms give Mario special cat and raccoon suits to battle with. Peach consumes a similar ice flower that gives her icy powers. There's one oddly dark element in the mix that's played for laughs. In the group of prisoners that Bowser is holding elevated in cages, a particular glowing Luma character makes fatalistic statements. This star-like critter is utterly cute-looking but sighs out statements such as, "The only hope is the sweet release of death," and, "There is no sunshine, only darkness." These declarations drive the other prisoners crazy as they plead for it to be quiet. With the announcement of a new animated Super Mario Bros. Movie, I'd wager there were a lot of people worrying that some Hollywood brain trust was going to, once again, ruin a memory from their childhood. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that truly horrible live-action Mario pic from the 90s. But worry not, Mario and crew come through the cinematic translation this time with lots of colorful and sparkling charm to spare. Granted, This pic has the slow upfront load time of an old GameCube with story setup fanservice that tiny fans likely won't catch. And the central characters don't sound or always act like you remember, though Jack Black's Bowser is a hoot. But their hearts are all in the right place. There are heroes, cartoony perils, loving family members and a happy ending. In fact, once the gang gets to goofily stomping Koopas, chucking Donkey Kong barrels and gleefully Mario Karting about, you can't help but enjoy yourself. That said, the only real concern is that some scenes might be visually frightening to really young or sensitive viewers. Much of the peril here, most of it really, is pretty cartoony. But Bowser's glowing eyes and volcanic HQ do have a dark feel to them that might be upsetting to some. Still, this is a movie for fans, first and foremost. And I suspect most who've played any of these games will have a ball watching this rollicking big screen homage to Nintendo's flagship franchise. This has been the movie I waited so long for, and I am not afraid to admit it. As soon as I first heard they were making a Mario movie, I knew I had to watch it because that was literally my childhood. My sister and I would play Mario Party whenever we had the free time, and that was literally one of the highlights of my childhood. So my mother and I rounded up the family, including my niece and nephews, and took them out to see the Mario movie. Thanks to my AMC A-list and the fact I randomly had an AMC gift card, this only cost us about $30 for 6 people and 2 buckets of popcorn. The theater I saw it in was completely sold out, full of adults and kids alike. I think that's the best way to see these kinds of movies. Even the young kids in the theater knew exactly what the references were, as the kid 2 seats down from me even recognized the Luigi's Mansion theme song tinkering in the background of one scene. Seems like a lot of people were die-hard fans in this screening, which made it so much better when all of the little Easter eggs you'd understand if you were a fan showed up. This movie kind of serves as an origin story for the Mario brothers. We open the movie in Brooklyn, New York, where they live with their family and just invested all of their money into a commercial on television advertising their plumbing services. After getting degraded by their former boss in a pizza shop, the dejected brothers get a phone call asking for their services. It's a wealthy customer, but when the family's dog ends up attacking them because Luigi broke its bone, the brothers end up accidentally destroying the entire apartment's bathroom. They go home to their family, but when Mario discovers that Brooklyn is weirdly flooding, he decides it's their chance to prove their worth. They end up in the New York sewers, where, after stumbling upon an abandoned section further below the ground, Luigi is sucked into a green pipe and isn't seen again. Mario heads into the pipe, where he, too, is sucked into it. While they hold hands after catching up to each other in the vortex created between that green pipe and the next, Luigi is separated from Mario and ends up being chased by a horde of skull bones. He finds an abandoned mansion, drops his flashlight, and is then captured by a group of shy guys who then take him to Bowser. Luigi is put into a cage, with his only companion being the captured penguins and a little blue star that is low-key suicidal and cheering about all of their impending deaths. In the other side story at the beginning, setting up the conflict immediately is Bowser and his army of Koopas attacking an ice kingdom full of penguins. He easily overtakes them with his army because they're small and incapable of really fighting back, and gains a star in the process, making him invincible. His ultimate goal is to take over the Mushroom Kingdom and marry Peach, but he seems unwilling to accept that she might not marry him. Spoiler, it's obvious she won't. There's a strange musical number at this point in the movie, which leans into kid territory, but it works. Mario ends up in the Mushroom Kingdom, when an adventure toad takes him in and sneaks him into Peach's palace. There, Mario meets Peach and she decides to team up with him despite him not knowing the ways of their world, and they head off to the Donkey Kingdom in order to ask for their arm. There, Mario narrowly defeats Donkey Kong, and earns the Donkey Army. But when they get their go-karts and head onto the Rainbow Road, but Bowser's spies find out about this and ambush everyone, defeating the Donkey Army and leaving Mario and Donkey Kong inside of a fish's mouth. They escape, but Peach has already returned to the kingdom and surrendered to Bowser at this point. Peach freezes Bowser at their wedding, and Mario and Donkey Kong come in as reinforcements. Bowser pulls out his trump card when free from the ice, the massive bullet bill, and Mario redirects it by sending it through the pipe in which he came from. Then everyone and everything gets sucked into the real world of Brooklyn, and they have their final showdown on the streets. Apparently this is normal for this world's New York City. Anyways, Mario and Luigi take down Bowser, end up living in the Mushroom Kingdom, and the end of the movie implies there'll be another one with a Yoshi. It's a fun movie. There are some moments that I would dare to say aren't for kids, especially when Donkey Kong keeps asking Mario if he's flirting with Peach. I would say as a Mario fan who grew up with a different kind of voice acting, the celebrities are fine, but because I'm so used to hearing a certain sound from these characters, I wasn't impressed by the celebrities being involved with the movie. I like professional voice actors in these contexts, and I think we should give them more work. It is unfortunate that celebrities sell more at the end of the day, but what can us mere mortals do? Go see this one if you're a fan. For some inane reason, film reviewers usually fail to understand the appeal of video games. Whether it be the culture around how shoddy older adaptations were or because they believe film is a superior art form, we're still seeing reviews from professional writers about how something like the Super Mario Bros. Movie is a failure of the art form. As a lifelong Mario fan, I didn't really know what to expect when I went to see the film. I had been excited since Nintendo was directly involved in this film, but we've also come a long way in the intervening 30 years from the original, disastrous Super Mario Bros. Film. Now there are quality video games out there such as Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Detention. Can Nintendo's plumber stack up? Well, the answer is yes and no. It really depends on whether or not you still have a childlike wonder about film, which can be understandably hard to muster much enthusiasm for nowadays when everything is part of some corporate machine. The general plot of the Super Mario Bros. Movie was thankfully not spoiled by all of the marketing pre-release. Instead of a story about Mario trying to save the princess like in the games, this time, we have a mixture of that original 90s Mario film and the world of Nintendo's classic franchise. Starting in Brooklyn, NYC, brothers Mario, Chris Pratt, and Luigi, Charlie Day, are plucky upstarts in the plumbing game after having just left their construction job from Spike, Sebastian Maniscalco, at Wrecking Crew. Spike believes the duo will fail, and that is further beaten into their heads when even their own father tells them they are doomed. After a job goes sideways thanks to a vicious dog, Mario is down in the dumps. When Luigi attempts to cheer him up following a family dinner, Mario sees a report on the news about a flood down in the streets of Brooklyn. The two race off to save the city, but wind up getting sucked into a mysterious pipe that transports them to the Mushroom Kingdom, the home of Toads, Koopas, Goombas, and the royal Princess Peach, Anya Taylor-Joy. At a brisk 92 minutes of runtime, the Super Mario Bros. Movie doesn't ever slow down to develop things much. While I'm skipping over some details including a prologue where Bowser, Jack Black, takes over a kingdom of penguins there is a sense that Nintendo and production company Illumination, known for the Minions, aimed this film squarely at children. I don't say that as a negative, but more that viewing this as an adult, I find myself nitpicking some loose ends because the film has no answers for them. There is clearly a story angle of Mario wanting to prove himself to his family and brother, but then that gets sidelined for Peach's struggle against Bowser. Luigi gets small bits of backstory about how his brother always protected him, but that thread goes nowhere. Before you think this is just setting up some payoff for the conclusion of the film, another wrinkle gets added when Peach decides to visit the Kong Kingdom and recruit the forces of Cranky Kong, Fred Armisen, and his son Donkey Kong, Seth Rogen. There is simply too much going on for anything to really stand out. That is except for Jack Black's portrayal of the King of the Koopas. Bowser is very clearly a highlight here, from his performance to his visual design and his lopsided view of romance. Taking an angle from Super Mario Sunshine, Bowser simply wants a wife to rule the world with him. While he has a distorted view of how to get that, causing him to become a villain, it's hard not to feel sorry for the big guy. He really just wants to make life better for his underlings. But a lot of that is inferred story. I wouldn't call it subtext, per se, but what the Super Mario Bros. Movie truly feels like is an overload of fanservice. I'm not going to reiterate talking points from other reviews where they can't understand why go-karts are driving on a literal rainbow, because that is irrelevant. It's just a cool visual that was created in Mario Kart to differentiate the track design. What does become puzzling is why the Kong Kingdom thought driving karts was faster than using their barrel jets for traversal, especially on a road that Bowser already knows about. Logic gets thrown out the window in this film to cram in as many references to the Mario franchise as possible. Some of these references are fun background details. I loved the pizza shop named Punch-Out Pizza and seeing some kind of Duck Hunt tavern, but others feel like inclusions simply for the sake of pointing to the games. Mario actually eating mushrooms, for instance, is kind of off-putting, but then it doesn't even really factor into the story. He uses them in a couple of scenes and that's it. The same goes for his catsuit, which he uses to pummel DK into submission but then completely forgets about after. Worse than that, Mario isn't even the main character in his own film. This story is truly about Peach's dedication to her kingdom and how far she'll go to protect it. As a fan, I love that this story doesn't portray Peach as totally worthless, but so much of the movie is dedicated to her that it feels like Mario is mostly going along for the ride. Luigi, too, has a prominent role in the beginning segments before disappearing for nearly half of the film. The brothers aren't all that important, I suppose. You really can't look at the film the way I am, however. I'm not suggesting viewers turn their brains off and simply clap at the pretty lights. The animation is absolutely gorgeous, which is a major feat for Illumination. The studio typically does the bare minimum when it comes to gussying up its films, but the Super Mario Bros. Movie looks better than practically every 3D iteration of the series. No, when I say you can't look at this movie with a fine-tooth comb, I mean that this isn't a movie meant for deeper analysis. The best way I can put it is that the Super Mario Bros. Movie is the very definition of a popcorn flick. This is something you take the kids to, get a big tub of popcorn to share with your significant other, and just smile at all the fun references and such. Once you leave the theater, you put it out of your mind and go about your day. It's harmless entertainment that can be a little aggravating with how close it gets to being good, but that doesn't deserve any derision and hatred. Children will absolutely love what they see and they'll likely be acting out some of the funnier scenes for months to come. I do think it's a little bizarre how many references there are to killing in a PG-rated film. Bowser even says something about making Mario watch as he kills his brother, but then you get things like the gleefully depressed Luma and Bowser singing a love anthem to his Peachy. I could bring up how the soundtrack doesn't really work, especially since Illumination just has to license out popular songs despite them having nothing to do with Super Mario. I'm not sure how Aha's Take on Me or AC/DC's Thunderstruck fit into this universe, especially when game composer Koji Kondo has a treasure trove of utterly classic songs that could fill out an entire saga of films, but that's more a symptom of this being a big Hollywood film. Even with a property as rich as Super Mario, the grubby hands of corporate filmmaking simply couldn't shy away from such an opportunity. Still, as much as I may have left this film feeling indifferent, I spied a party happening in my theater as I was leaving. It was filled with children who had just seen the movie, some from my own theater, that were eating mushroom-shaped cakes, wearing Mario and Luigi caps, and jumping around for joy. To them, all of the plot inconsistencies and ham-fisted references didn't matter. They got to see their favorite gaming icons on the big screen in a film that at least paid respect to the legacy of the brothers. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is not going to go down as an all-time animated classic. It's also nowhere even close to being the best video game adaptation ever produced. While you can poo some of its story decisions and grumble about how the plot is about as deep as a puddle, it still possesses enough of Mario's charm to be worth a watch. When there is much worse drivel out there for children that doesn't respect their intelligence or pay reverence to things they hold dear, something like the Super Mario Bros. Movie being just okay is perfectly fine. For a generation of video gamers, who would look through their family's living room couch for quarters to feed into an arcade machine or took a paper route to save up money to buy a Nintendo Entertainment System, Mario was Nintendo. Sure, there was Link, Simon Belmont, Samus Aran, and Mega Man, but say Nintendo to any kid, and they would gleefully shout Mario. The portly plumber with the mustache and red hat graced a shocking number of Nintendo games. I once had a book cataloging his random appearances, which was an eye-opener. Sega had Sonic, and Nintendo had Mario. In other media, though, Mario had a spotty record. The Mario Brothers show with Lou Albano seems to be beloved by those who watched it, but the '93 film was widely panned. I saw the movie in the theater, and while I enjoyed Bob Hoskins' turn as Mario, I knew that the movie was a poor example of the Super Mario Bros. Universe. An animated film was the only way to properly show the zany and fantastical insanity of the Mario universe and properly realize characters like Bowser, Toad, the Goombas, and the Shy Guys. If you're the type of film goer who loves animated movies to be a little adult in the themes, much like Pixar's lineup, this is not your movie. There is almost no character development and the barest plot imaginable. There were moments when I wondered how we got to the scene I was watching on screen. What the Super Mario Bros. Movie is, though, is a hell of a lot of fun. You'll have a blast if you're a fan of the games, and frankly, if you're not, why are you going to see this movie? There are a ton of Easter eggs throughout the film. I found myself all the time saying, "Oh man, they put that in, and wow, I didn't think they'd do that." Characters from the first 3 Super Mario games are in there, as well as characters from the Donkey Kong universe. You want some Smash Brothers? It's in there. You want some Mario Kart? It's in there. I'm shocked they didn't find a way to get Dr. Mario in there. The voice work is fine, and most of the actors are unrecognizable in their performances. Chris Pratt doesn't sound like Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't sound like Anya Taylor-Joy. The actors really work to sound like what their characters should be. The one exception is Seth Rogen, who voices Donkey Kong and, frankly, sounds like Seth Rogen. Then again, I'm not a fan of Seth Rogen and find he puts in minimal effort for everything, so it shouldn't surprise. The soundtrack is a joy. Of course, you have one of the best composers going today, Brian Tyler, at the helm, so you shouldn't expect anything less. All the familiar and iconic themes from the games, the dungeon, in the water, the star, it's all there. I don't think it's possible for them to have jammed any more in. The sound effects are there as well. I swear, if you're a fan of the games, you'll have one big smile on your face. The animation was good, and at least I could see everything. It wasn't like Into the Spider-Verse, where I thought the screen was glitching. The character designs are spot on, and you'll have no trouble identifying your favorite characters from the games. If there's anything you should take away from this review is that the movie is just sheer entertainment. Don't go in looking for a terrific storyline or even a generic one. This is just one big, silly adventure starring one of the greatest characters from video game history. To think you'll get anything else is setting yourself up for disappointment. So, grab a fire flower, sit down on your favorite green pipe, and enjoy. The Super Mario Bros. Movie gives you a wholesome prankish drug a chameleonic video game buzz. It's also a nice, sweet confection for 6-year-olds. Historically, the proverbial problem with live-action movies based on video games and Super Mario Bros., a leaden dud released 30 years ago, had the dishonor of being the very first one is that they jam-pack the screen with tropes and fights and characters and landscapes right out of the game, but when it comes to molding all that gimcrackery into, a story, they lose the electronic pulse that made the game addictive. Digital animation is, and always should have been, the true cousin of video games, which are essentially computer fantasies that you control. And the Super Mario Bros. Movie takes full advantage of the sculptural liquid zap of the computer animation medium. Yet it also has a fairy tale story that's good enough to get you onto its wavelength. When Mario, the mustached, overalls-wearing Italian plumber of Nintendo fame, voiced by Chris Pratt as an eager Brooklyn everyman, swirls down a New York sewer and into the Mushroom Kingdom, where he learns to leap from one now you see it floating airborne block to the next, or faces off against the preening, super strong but not really all that mighty Donkey Kong, Seth Rogen, on a network of red girders in a gladiatorial arena that's hanging 2,000 feet in the air, or zips along a superhighway of pure rainbow light in a go-kart race that's aggressive enough to look like something out of Mad Max, Candyland Road. The movie doesn't so much duplicate the logistics of a Mario game as conjure the spirit of the game. We've enmeshed in every choice, every movement. The action isn't vacuous or ponderous, it makes speed and light seem concretely alive. Mario and his timid brother, Luigi, Charlie Day, are devoted to each other, and they're out to start their own plumbing business, complete with a TV commercial in which they speak in fake kitsch Italian accents. But then they delve into the sewer to fix a water main break and get sucked down into an alternate universe. Mario lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, where the big red shrooms with white polka dots suggest a wonderland designed for the Smurfs. Luigi gets dumped into the Dark Lands, a Tim Burton night world of gnarled trees and creepy chattering skeletons. Mario just wants to rescue his brother, but then he meets Princess Peach, Anya Taylor-Joy, who rules over the Mushroom Kingdom's denizens, who have spherical mushroom heads and the faces of airbrushed babies. They're led by Toad, Keegan-Michael Key, a cuddlebug with attitude. Mario then teams up with Princess Peach to save her kingdom from Bowser, a fire-breathing beastie who commands a vast army of Koopas, who are turtles. Bowser is a turtle too, if a rather monstrous one. He's like a fusion of Lionel Barrymore, the Wayland Flowers puppet Madam, and a T-Rex plushie made for toddlers. Jack Black, who voices this horny demon, gives a stupendous performance. Bowser is in love with Princess Peach, even as he's planning to attack her empire, and Black, conjuring something very different from his usual hipster stoner vibe, makes Bowser a domineering but deeply insecure romantic, like the Phantom of Opera as a neurotic troglodyte. Having a villain who's a vulnerable ogre you're at once appalled, amused, and fascinated by makes this a very different sort of kinetic kitty fantasia. When Bowser is on screen with his flaming red eyebrows and S&M armbands, his gap-toothed reptile leer, his meatloaf meat sack cell rose soft rock odes to Peach, and his nerd's megalomania, the audience is in heaven. There's a way that mainstream animation, not to mention my own taste in it, has been evolving. So much of it has become rote, with an empty fractious dazzle that doesn't ultimately sustain interest. And the Pixar brand, much as it saddens me to say it, has in recent years lost some of its humanistic luster. The animated movies I've been most drawn to have been off the Pixar grid, movies like Trolls and Ralph Breaks the Internet, which merge a kind of kinetic virtuosity with an emotional flair that sneaks up on you. I'd put the Super Mario Bros. Movie in that camp. It's going to be a huge hit, but not just because of its beloved gamer pedigree. That didn't help Super Mario Bros. In 1993. It's because the movie, as directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic, from a script by Matthew Fogel, is a serious blast, with a spark of enchantment that genessays qua fusion of speed and trickery, magic and sophistication, and sheer play that, well, you feel it when you see it. The key thing the Super Mario Bros. Movie has that too many animated films don't, I would say, without overstating it, that it links the film to the spirit of Yellow Submarine is a rollicking aesthetic of transmutation. We know that Mario can balance on a girder to face off against Donkey Kong, even as Donkey Kong's dad, Cranky Kong, voiced by Fred Armisen with the kind of extreme New York accent that somehow feels right at home in the Jungle Kingdom, cheers for Mario's demise. But when Mario wins the duel by transforming himself into a cat, all because he is now wearing a furry cat costume. That's pure video game surrealism. I change identity by tapping a power-up box, therefore I am. The movie also strikes a note of agreeably transgressive comedy when Cranky Kong and his crew, who've been placed in hanging cages, have to endure the presence of a glowing star who voices Debbie Downer existential despair in the ickiest of baby voices. There have been approximately 50 movies based on video games, and most of them are terrible. I've had limited patience even for the ones that work, like the coolly depersonalized Resident Evil series or that first Lara Croft film. It's not that I'm hostile to video games, it's that the game and film mediums are so different. Then again, not all video games are the same. The funky nihilist hellscapes of Grand Theft Auto couldn't be further removed from the interactive innocence of the Mario franchise. Mario presides over a digital playground that lifts the spirit to a place of split-second wonder, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie stays true to that. Its ingenuity is infectious. You don't have to be a Mario fan to respond to it, but the film is going to remind the millions who are why they call it a joystick. I can vividly remember playing the first Nintendo version of Super Mario Bros. When I was just a boy in the 80s. It was at a friend's house, my first buddy to get an NES, and I went home and had a dream about the game. The goofy, jumping plumber has been a part of my entertainment life ever since. I've passed my love for the franchise down to my boys, who have all played the stunning Super Mario Odyssey to completion more than once. Mario has come a long way since the notoriously awful 1993 version of his adventure starring Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, but the Super Mario Bros. Movie doesn't reflect the franchise's creativity in the slightest. The latest animated blockbuster from Illumination is their most soulless to date, a film that feels like ChatGPT produced it after data and imagery from the games were fed into a computer. It is the Chris Farley show of family entertainment, making references to something that was awesome for actually making a movie. And it is one of the most drenched in desperation animated films I've ever seen. Remember this? Remember how much you liked it? Please like it again. I so desperately wanted to see something that sparked the imagination of the kid in me, like that first game, or spoke to the fun I've had playing installments across multiple Nintendo platforms. Instead, I got a movie that's as hollow as a trailer, something that willfully avoids anything creative or ambitious. Mario and Luigi deserve so much better. The Super Mario Bros. Movie opens in Brooklyn with the plumbers Mario, Chris Pratt, and his brother Luigi, Charlie Day, trying to get their new business off the ground. Some Nintendo Easter eggs in the background of these initial scenes should produce a small smile from people of my generation, and there's a bit of inspiration structurally, like a clever early shot in which Mario and Luigi race through the city in a side-scrolling manner that mimics the earlier games. There's also a nod to the Odyssey on a bookshelf in Mario's room, implying that we're about to watch a hero's journey and a reference to the incredible Switch game. What follows doesn't live up to either inspiration. In a way that makes little sense, Mario and Luigi find a massive chamber of pipes under Brooklyn, get sucked into one, and end up in the Mushroom Kingdom, which is being threatened by the villainous Bowser, Jack Black. The notorious bad guy has found the superstar he needs to make his final assault on Princess Peach, Anya Taylor-Joy, and the residents of her kingdom, including Toad, Keegan-Michael Key. Bowser doesn't just want power, he wants to make the princess his bride, singing some truly uninspired songs about his love for her. How on earth a film like this gets a rock talent like half of Tenacious D and doesn't let him unleash a few clever Bowser tunes is one of this film's many mysteries. Although Luigi lands in the pipeline that drops him immediately in the Darklands and makes him Bowser's prisoner, a dumb decision that sidelines him for an hour, Mario meets Princess Peach, who introduces him to Power UPS. And so all the question mark cubes get a chance to shine as Mario grows, shrinks, and even turns into a raccoon. They eventually recruit Donkey Kong, Seth Rogen, race down Rainbow Road, and save the day. That's not a spoiler if you've ever seen a movie. Fans of this movie will shout from the rooftops that the scripting for something called the Super Mario Bros. Movie doesn't need to be a strength. And, to be fair, there are a few strong settings in terms of design. I enjoyed the choices made by the team in the structure of Donkey Kong Country, and the Rainbow Road Super Mario Kart sequence is well directed. But I would ask why fans of a franchise that has inspired so much love for generations must be satisfied with the absolute minimum regarding storytelling. There are so few actual decisions made in the construction of this film. It's just a collection of visual and character references cobbled together to form a 92-minute movie. Take a risk. Just do something. Anything. It got me thinking about the fun spin-offs that could exist, like a Mad Max, Fury Road version of the Mario Kart sequence that gets energy out of non-stop motion. Or a version that unpacks like the Lego Movie that's more sharply aware of its references and world building, something that even incorporates the player like that movie does in the end. I swear that almost everyone who has played a game like Odyssey could come up with something more inventive. Heck, almost any 10 minutes of that game is more creative. It doesn't help that the voice work is uniformly mediocre too. Chris Pratt can be charismatic with the right material, but it sounds like he pounded this out in 3 hours in a voice studio. Charlie Day has such an expressive voice, but the movie barely uses him. Seth Rogen is always a welcome presence, and he at least seems to be having some fun. I wish I was too. With the nostalgia craze merging with the power of Nintendo and Illumination, the Super Mario Bros. Movie feels too big to fail. That means we'll get a sequel, and I expect another cycle of the debate of critics versus fans. I am both. And I want a world where the people who made films for a fan base as devoted as this one don't take that fandom for granted. This is far from over. I suspect we will get a ton of films from the NES universe, including Donkey Kong Country and The Legend of Zelda, and let's not forget Kid Icarus. But we need creators who don't just see these games as products to be referenced but as foundations on which new ideas can be built. That 80s kid who dreamed of Mario deserves it. I will be frank with you, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is a good movie. It capitalized on the Nintendo nostalgia that I grew up with for years and my love for Mario. The voice acting is superb, the references are numerous, and the movie is captivating. It has every right to be an international blockbuster, and there is a 90% chance that I will see it again in IMAX. There is absolutely no way for me to overlook the childlike biases I had going into this movie last night, so the review ends here. Would watch Bowser go full Elton John on the keyboard again. But that's an inherent disservice to everyone who isn't a Nintendo historian like me. If you casually enjoyed Mario growing up, or if you've never given a damn about him before, this movie still deserves your time because it shows us what a proper video game movie is supposed to be. With executive production by Illumination CEO Chris Meledandri and the father of modern video games Shigeru Miyamoto, the movie feels intentional with its purpose. The scoring, the movements and the animations are all done with the same visual quality we've come to expect from the studio that brought us Despicable Me. With the production of the film kicking off in 2018, this movie had been in the works for 5 years with Miyamoto and Meledandri co-producing. With any movie of this scale, expertise was definitely required, so Teen Titans Go! Creators Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic were brought on for directing, and Matthew Fogel was the main screenwriter. But none of these things would matter to anyone outside of those who have a deep passion for cartoons and Hollywood. Who really mattered were the voice acting cast and whether or not they could remain faithful to the source material. In a September 2021 Nintendo Direct, Miyamoto announced that Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, Seth Rogen, Kevin Michael Richardson and Fred Armisen would all be starring. The internet immediately burst into flames at the idea of Pratt becoming the voice of Mario with Day playing Luigi. Obviously, no one was disappointed by Black playing Bowser, but there were many lingering questions. Internet dialogue went back and forth about the qualifications of everyone but Black, Rogen, and Key to play such important roles. Pratt, in particular, got a lot of flack for being chosen over Mario voice actor Charles Martinet, but none of those things matter if the voices hold up. So do they? Let me be clear, the casting in the movie was done correctly. Black as Bowser is a form of antidepressant, and no one can change my mind. As to how Illumination managed to make the character model of Bowser move and behave like Black, I have no idea, but the qualities that made him beloved across the world make an appearance. Rogan as Donkey Kong makes sense in a way you have to see to believe. The snarky, somewhat airheaded personality of DK in the film feels like it was made specifically for Rogan but never out of place. And paired with the weird and distinct voice of Armisen, the entire Kong portion of the movie felt like it was done with clear intention. One of the Kongs even looked and screamed like Jerry Seinfeld, which got me to double over laughing. Taylor-Joy wouldn't have been my first choice for Peach, but I'm glad they went with her. The rigging in Peach's face could be weird at times, but they succeeded in writing her in a way that felt satisfying. The directors made her competent, caring and self-reliant in a way that she is rarely depicted outside of the spin-off games. Here she feels more like a playable character than a damsel in distress, which the directors based on Super Mario 3D World and Mario Kart. Having Key, who is known for his vocal range, play Toad was brilliant as he was able to replicate the shrill screech of the character with shocking accuracy. But this is the Super Mario Bros. Movie, not the Mario Extended Universe movie, which means we have to address the giant Koopa in the room, Pratt and Day. Luigi is a scared, often high-strung character who plays second fiddle to Mario in almost every depiction where their characters are given even partial dialogue. He is not always autonomous, but he is reliable and acts as a partner in crime to Mario. However, the movie changes that by making him the damsel, requiring him to be saved instead of doing the saving. And while Day's energy of the character is correct, he just sounds like himself. The closest he gets to sounding like Luigi is calling out to Mario during Luigi's Mansion reference during the film. I found this detracted from his character quite a lot as he was not able to land the voice. Pratt, on the other hand, does not sound like himself. Quite frankly, he sounds so little like himself that if you told me he was voiced by a completely different person, I would not notice. While he does not sound like Martinet, I think it was better to make his regular speaking voice normal. Listening to Mario chatter away for 90 minutes in his traditional voice would have been maddening. And so, despite the initial thoughts of the internet, Pratt ended up doing a good job in his portrayal of Mario. Without the direct involvement of Nintendo and Miyamoto, this movie would have been a train wreck, undoubtedly. But with the attention to detail given by the writers, animators, directors, and producers, we, instead, found a love letter to one of the world's biggest franchises. There are far too many references to the 80s, Nintendo, and modern pop culture to list them all. Luigi's ringtone is the GameCube startup, DK's theme is from Donkey Kong 64, and there are 5 minutes of Captain Toad references crammed in. It was sensory overload as I tried to catch every single thing while paying attention to the plot. I do not feel compelled to look up the references online because they are burned into my brain from my childhood, and to me, that is one of the most beautiful things a person can experience. Stuck-up reviewers will have their flaws with this movie. They will tell you the pacing is bad or that the plot is disjointed and that characters' motivations are not clearly established in Act 1. And there are some valid points that need to be addressed in the plot. But as I write my last media review here at the Daily Campus, I implore you to judge something on how it makes you feel first and foremost before you rate it by the book. I have always been averse to the rating system because it forces me as a writer to lock in my answer based on an invisible rubric. And because of this, I am not giving a numerical rating. The shadow of the original Super Mario Bros. Movie circa 1993 is strong. As one of the first video game movies, the picture had for a brief time the likes of Dustin Hoffman, Tom Hanks, and Arnold Schwarzenegger circling key roles. The stink we now usually associate with video game movies was not yet a thing. Of course that stench really began because of Super Mario Bros. and its status as a legendary Hollywood disaster. The scent became so overwhelming, in fact, not to mention humiliating, that Nintendo lowered the gates to their kingdom, refusing to let Hollywood enter again for a full 30 years. 3 decades later though, the gates are up, the drawbridge is down, and Universal Pictures and Illumination Entertainment have convinced Nintendo to hand them the keys. Which makes it striking that in many ways, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, 2023, appears to be a course correction, a redo, a veritable sliding doors scenario where the setup is pretty much the same thing. 2 Brooklyn-born brothers of unconvincing Italian-American heritage are down on their luck as plumbers until they stumble onto a portal to another dimension hidden beneath the sewers of NYC. Only now that portal is the more familiar green pipe from the games instead of bizarre, but also game-based, interdimensional quicksand. More importantly, however, once the brothers Mario pass through that gateway, they avoid winding up in a garish, allegedly kid-friendly version of Blade Runner. Instead they're at last in the giddy beauty and vast wonderment of the Mario games. For audiences 9 to, probably, 49, it should be overwhelming. If the notoriously cinema-shy Nintendo was hesitant to ever do this dance again for fear of seeing their prized intellectual property not faithfully adapted, they and millions of fans, particularly children, can rest easy. Super Mario Bros. The movie is an exhaustingly slavish recreation of elements from the games. Few will likely even notice, either, that it's by way of a pretty generic and fairly hollow Illumination flick. To be sure, the thing certainly looks grand after Mario, Chris Pratt, follows Luigi, Charlie Day, down the pipe-shaped rabbit hole. Before that moment, there is some basic backstory revealing the pair are viewed as a couple of mustachioed losers by their family and the neighborhood, and Mario just wants to do something important, meanwhile Luigi just wants to do whatever Mario wants. But once they leave their slice of Kansas behind, Luigi is pretty much sidelined for the whole movie because he lands in the Dark Lands, where he is captured by the Koopa armies of Bowser, Jack Black, a tyrannical dragon with an underrated singing voice. Conversely, Mario lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, which is populated by an endless sea of androgynous children, each named Toad. Keegan-Michael Key voices the most important one, and the humanoid Princess Peach, Anya Taylor-Joy. But make no mistake, this Peach is nobody's damsel. Before Mario tastes even his first mushroom, the princess is already a badass jumper, fireball wielder, and rainbow road driver. It's honestly a bit of a mystery why the princess has need of plumbers at all, especially one as schlubby as Pratt's Mario. The movie doesn't seem to really consider that question either. They meet and she agrees immediately to take him with her to the Jungle Kingdom where she will entreat with the father of Donkey Kong, Seth Rogen, to join her forces in a fight against Bowser before the Koopa King invades both of their lands. This movie is, again, a visually sumptuous transfer of Nintendo iconography to a 70-foot, or so, screen. And it's all here, mushrooms that turn Mario into a giant? Check. Leaves that inexplicably make him a raccoon with the gift of flight? Double check. That white top hat Bowser wore during select cutscenes of Super Mario Odyssey. Look, the easiest way to sum up an Easter egg guide for this sucker is to say that if you can think of it, it's probably in the movie and it'll put a smile on your face when it appears, including via 2 post-credits scenes. Yet it isn't just the simple name or visual recognition that works in the film's favor. For the first time in what seems like nearly a decade, Illumination is really stretching its animation prowess to its fullest. Historically, Illumination films after the early surprise success of Despicable Me have excessively relied on celebrity stunt voice casting and tedious pop culture jokes and songs for the adults, which are intended to paper over thin narratives. One must really give credit where it's due to the Super Mario Bros. Movie then, the attention to detail, and likely pressure to please the right shoulders of what has grown into a billion-dollar IP, is immense. As a result, parents and children alike will overdose on the sugar rush blast of candy-colored nostalgia on constant display. Peach's castle at the top of the Mushroom Kingdom, Bowser's Flying Fortress, Rainbow Road, even the spooky trees from Luigi's Mansion are all gorgeously recreated, and each further enhanced by Brian Tyler's score, which sprinkles in countless nods to Nintendo games of yore and their beloved themes written by Koji Kondo. Yet the limit to that AAA effort is it's still in service to a movie that is shackled by the far more limited imagination of Illumination formula. As far as Twitter gossip is concerned, that begins and ends with the stunt casting of Pratt as Mario. And truthfully, it is unnecessary, especially when Charles Martinet, who has voiced Mario and Luigi in the games since 1996, makes a vocal cameo that is instantly beguiling. However, Pratt is more than fine as the Italian plumber in a red cap. It's not a remarkable performance per se, but it fulfills the limited demands set by Illumination's film. And what those demands consist of is another American animated film that coasts off audience recognition of IP and fourth wall breaking gags. It's been 20 years, nearly to the day, since Quentin Tarantino made Hodai's Battle Without Honor or Humanity the audible sound of cool in Kill Bill, Volume 1, and when it appears inside of the first 90 seconds of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, parents will instantly know it's lost all cultural cachet and relevance. Of course, kids, who will be this movie's best served audience, won't care, nor should they. Nevertheless, I wonder if ripping off the nearly as old Shrek 2 by sliding in Bonnie Tyler's I Need a Hero for a montage will go as unnoticed by even the youngest viewers. And that's really the thing about this movie. As a carefully calibrated stewardship of a game franchise that multiple generations love, the handling is nothing short of a door-to-door white glove service and a far cry from that American insult in '93. As an actual animated movie that needs to stand on its own, however, it's derivative and bare bones. The quiet scenes between Mario and Peach feel particularly strung together with seeming character beats and lines of dialogue that were probably storyboarded missing after the story was condensed during the animation process. There are exceptions, of course, most of them regarding Black inside Bowser's castle. In the one instance where the celebrity casting actually adds to the quality of the film, Black's King Koopa is reimagined as a lovelorn and sensitive soul, prone to tearful power ballads on the piano. One can't help but wonder how much of that is improvised by Black, just as one might wonder what a Mario Brothers movie might have been like if it was made by Pixar or even the newly revitalized DreamWorks animation that just put out Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. As it stands, this is a cute family film that children will adore, and many nostalgic adults will drift away on like a magic carpet above a 64-bit flying pirate ship. It's an adequate product with exquisite craftsmanship. When you open it up though, it's empty on the inside. So, when Hollywood decided to adapt Super Mario Bros. Into a big screen adventure, I was looking forward to seeing whether they can pull off the first ever live-action video game movie. The 1993 movie of the same name boasts the right casting decision of enlisting the late Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo to play the iconic Brooklyn plumbers of the Mario Brothers. But the husband and wife directing team, Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel, made a colossal mistake of reimagining the video game's otherwise bright and colorful vibes into a surprisingly bizarre and gritty version. The word faithful was certainly thrown out of the window, resulting in one of the worst video game movies ever made that Hoskins himself labeled Super Mario Bros. AF nightmare a few years later. For those who have seen the 1993 movie, you may or may not recall the ending where Samantha Mathis Princess Daisy shows up at the front door of Mario and Luigi's apartment asking them to help her on a new mission. That new mission would have paved way for a sequel if it wasn't for the first film's critical and financial debacle. It would take the popular Nintendo video game series not a few years but rather almost 30 years later to finally come up with a new Super Mario Bros. Movie after the notorious 1993 flop made its debut back in May 1993. So, here we are, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which arrived in a computer-generated animated form rather than a live-action take just like the 1993 version or even a live-action/CGI hybrid seen in the first two Sonic the Hedgehog movies. At the time of writing, the Super Mario Bros. Movie has already made over $700 million in just 2 weeks and still counting. But as usual, the mammoth size of its box office earnings this far doesn't always equal quality, and I hate to say that the Super Mario Bros. Movie happens to be one of them. I have high hopes for this new movie after seeing how faithful it has shown in the trailer, which successfully captured the look and feel of a Super Mario Bros. Video game. The story credited to Matthew Fogel, who previously wrote the formulaic Minions, The Rise of Gru last year, however, falters the most. I get that the movie may have been designed for kids and as family-friendly entertainment. And I understand the story shouldn't have to be complicated or something that resembled Oscar-winning material, considering the video game series itself is a straightforward fantasy adventure. Keeping it simple and accessible is the way to go, and while it does strike a chord among many audiences who have already seen it, I wish I could share the same sentiment. But this is a movie we are talking about and not a video game. I have a joypad in my hands to control the player, Mario, that is, throughout the journey. Without the interactive nature of a video game, it has to rely entirely on the actors, screenwriter, and director, in this case of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. We have co-directors Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic of the sadly underappreciated Teen Titans Go! To the movie's fame to bring the movie to life. Problem is, the Super Mario Bros. Movie plays it too safe for its own good. We first see Brooklyn Plumbers Mario, voiced by Chris Pratt, and Luigi, Charlie Day, has been struggling to start their own business even after they made a commercial. Then one day, their opportunity arises when a broken water main made the headline, prompting the Mario brothers to fix it. While working underground in the sewer, they find themselves sucked into the mysterious green pipe that leads them into a fantastical realm. Mario ends up in the Mushroom Kingdom while Luigi got separated and captured by Bowser's, Jack Black, minions. As Mario tries to make sense of the Mushroom Kingdom, he met a few characters along the way, namely Toad, Keegan-Michael Key, and Princess Peach, Anya Taylor-Joy. The latter turns out to be the ruler of the Mushroom Kingdom, where Mario and the princess agree to help each other to save Luigi and also her kingdom from Bowser. Well, that's about it. The entire movie is basically about saving Luigi and the Mushroom Kingdom and of course, defeating Bowser and his minions. Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic's overall direction is more dutiful rather than bringing a sense of creativity and inspiration into the movie. I don't mean something as misguided as the one seen in the 1993 version, but at least, it helps to step up a few notches above in terms of storytelling. Fogel's screenplay is as utterly predictable and banal as it gets. I find it hard to care about Mario and Luigi's fates throughout their treacherous journey into the unknown, since these characters are more like charisma-free, walking and talking avatars than someone with distinct personalities, unlike Hoskins and Leguizamo, who actually did a better job nearly 30 years ago. It also doesn't help when Chris Pratt's voice performance as Mario, who barely sounds like an Italian, while Charlie Day's Luigi is mostly undermined throughout the movie. There are a few things I do like about the Super Mario Bros. Movie, though. The animation is vibrant and colorful as it should be, and I love how everything looks game accurate, from its character designs to the various backgrounds reminiscent of the Super Mario video game worlds. Fans, in the meantime, will have a field day spotting plenty of Easter eggs and references, covering Punch-Out Pizzeria to the Super Mario veteran Charles Martinet's recognizable voice acting and the brief sight of Donkey Kong's brother, Diddy Kong from Donkey Kong Country, just to name a few. Credits also go to Horvath and Jelenic for painstakingly recreating some of the familiar moments from the game. This includes the Super Mario Bros. 2 training montage revolving around Princess Peach and Mario, the one-on-one Mario vs. Donkey Kong battle, and the Rainbow Road chase set piece straight out of the Mario Kart game. Interestingly enough, the supporting cast steals most of the show here, with Anya Taylor-Joy's feisty turn as Princess Peach and Keegan-Michael Key's hilariously deadpan role as Toad both deserve equal mention. Jack Black's scenery-chewing antagonist character Bowser is a spot-on casting choice, and we even get to see him performing the now popular piano-laden Peaches song. Since the early days of video games in the 1980s, the character of Mario, the Nintendo flagship character of its console brand, has certainly had celebrated lifespan and no plans for stopping anytime soon. the little Italian plumber man and his capability of jumping, dodging, and wielding various power ups, and taking a simple narrative of a damsel in distress premise by Princess Peach Toadstool from the evil clutches of the ferocious King Bowser, and has transformed into a thriving media juggernaut in the various Super Mario video game series. New stories, new avenues, new characters, and new games has flourished from Nintendo in an expansive gaming genres, including platforming, RPGs, racing, sports, party games, and several others, transforming a video game franchise into a brand name. Furthermore, the iconic video game character leaped off the Nintendo console to become a fandom obsession to the masses for generations in other outlets, including TV, books, theme park attractions, and, important for this review, a film adaptation. 1993's Super Mario Bros., which was directed by Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel and starred Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Hopper, was one of the earliest attempts at a film adaptation for a video game, and the results were definitely divided. To some, the experience was a daring example of reimagining such an iconic property in a live-action cinematic treatment, while many found the project to be a cringe-worthy bastardization of Nintendo's source material. Naturally, Super Mario Bros. Was a critical and commercial flop at the box office, with Nintendo shunning any thought of future prospects of translating their popular video game characters to the big screen. Now, following the success of 2019's Pokémon, Detective Pikachu run at the box office, and the positive reviews it received, Nintendo opens up the warp pipes once again for moviegoers to partake in everyone's favorite Italian plumber as Universal Pictures, Illumination Entertainment, and directors Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic release the movie The Super Mario Bros. Movie. Is this second attempt at the beloved video game character worth a look, or does it suffer the same fate as its predecessors as being a terrible video game film adaptation? Two Brooklyn Italian-American brothers are hoping to make their plumbing business a reality, but for Mario, Chris Pratt, and Luigi, Charlie Day, find themselves in dismay when a simple repair fix ends in disaster, which brings little hope for their future prospects. Hoping to prove their worth, the brothers jump at the opportunity to fix massive pipe leak underneath the streets of Brooklyn. Unfortunately, the siblings get more than what they were bargained for, with the pair falling through a warp tunnel connected to the Mushroom Kingdom, a magical and wondrous realm where fantastical things are around every corner. Here, the brothers learn of Bowser, Jack Black, a ruthless tyrant who is looking to claim dominion to all in the hopes to claim the heart of one Princess Peach Toadstool, Anya Taylor-Joy, finding her determined to refuse his matrimonial offer. Upon arriving, the brothers are separated, with Luigi becoming a prisoner for Bowser, while Mario, who is guided by Toad, Keegan-Michael Key, to Peach. Looking to find a way home and to save his brother from captivity, Mario gears up to take on their enemy, with the newcomer in need of training to navigate the world's strange magic and platform finesse challenges of his new surroundings, finding trouble around every corner, while Peach looks to protect her kingdom, seeking aid from the nearby Kong army to support her fight against of Bowser's army. Growing up in the late 80s and 90s era of my youth, childhood and teenager years, I saw the rise in popularity of video games and their various iconic flagship characters that the consoles were building around, including Mega Man, Sonic, Zelda, Mortal Kombat, and, of course, Mario. My grandmother owned an original Nintendo console, which she had the original Super Mario Bros. Game as well as Super Mario Bros. 3, which I found quite challenging to play in my younger years. My family eventually got a Super Nintendo and purchased Super Mario World and Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, both games I fell in love with, and my appreciation for the characters of Nintendo's flagship mascot. Naturally, over the years, as video game consoles were developed in the so-called console wars, I played most of the mainline Mario games, including Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, and Super Mario Odyssey, just to name a few, while also played some of the party games that featured Mario like Mario Kart, all of its variations, Mario Party, and Super Smash Bros. So, it goes without saying that I was quite well versed on Mario property and a lot of the supporting characters therein. Heck, I even remember watching the Super Mario Show, the hybrid TV show that had live-action segments as well as animated shorts. I don't exactly much of the live-action bits, but, of course, remember more of the cartoon parts, which were fun to watch in the early 90s. Of course, I remember watching the 1993 live-action film Super Mario Bros. And I had mixed feeling about it. I mentioned this a lot in my cinematic flashback review of the movie, so I won't go into much details. Suffice to say, that I felt that it was somewhat good when I was younger, especially since seeing the likes of Mario, Luigi, Koopa, and Yoshi in a live-action adaptation, but the movie itself didn't do the source material justice. Thus, 1993's Super Mario Bros. Was a somewhat of a cautionary tale for video game film adaptation and prompted Nintendo to close off most of the intellectual properties from being adapted. Heck, I'm waiting to see a Legend of Zelda movie ever materializes. Now, that would be awesome. In the end, the palpable popularity of Mario has endured throughout the years in the realm of video games as well as further extending its reach into other media facets in one of gaming's most cherished character from Nintendo. This brings me back to talking about the Super Mario Bros. Movie, a 2023 animated cartoon film from Illumination Entertainment and the second attempt at a Hollywood movie studio trying to bring the iconic and beloved world of Super Mario to the big screen. As stated, I was definitely always curious to see what a new Super Mario movie would look like in today's landscape, be it live action or animated. Of course, with such failure of the 1993 film, such idea seems very unlikely. That was until Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto became interested once again a new film adaptation for the character and met with Illumination Entertainment found Meledandri in 2016, with a firm deal reached to collaborate together 2 years later. Naturally, such details didn't come immediately to light, but when it did, it was big news to many across the globe, with the internet exploding with such talk of another Super Mario Bros. Movie, which was being planned as an animated feature. Of course, Illumination Entertainment has become quite an animated studio juggernaut with a lot of memorable releases, including the Despicable Me movies, the Minions spin-off endeavors, the Secret Life of Pets series, and the Sing franchise. So, the property was definitely, in my opinion, in the right hands. Yet, there was always that lingering doubt, especially with such details on what the movie was going to be about, assuming it was going to be an origin tale of some kind, and how the characters and concepts of translating the video game source material into a feature film would handle. There was a few snippets here and there that were teased over the next year or so, including first movie posters showcasing Mario and Luigi as well as the film's casting announcement, which boasts a large selection of recognizable talents, i.e. Pratt, Day, Black, Taylor-Joy, Key, Rogan, etc. Next, the film's movie trailers showcased exactly what fans of the video games really wanted to see, with such details of the famous characters as well as few glimpses of references to the video games themselves. There was definitely a nostalgia factor I got while watching the trailers every now and again, with the promise something really exciting. The lingering doubt still continued to linger, especially film adaptation of video game properties have really broke the supposed curse and never to rise beyond mediocre levels. However, I was still quite optimistic about this project and was quite excited to see this movie. So, I decided to check out the movie during its opening night and try to get my review done for it as quickly as possible, while everything was fresh in my mind. And what did I think of it? Well, I really liked it. Despite a few minor nitpicks with its story and some overloading moments of fan service, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is a fantastic and visually colorful animated feature that delivers on its promise of making a cartoon feature on the iconic Nintendo character for a dazzling endeavor of flashy movement as well as wholesome fun all the way around. It dips a bit too much in the fan service territory and moves too fast at times, but the entire project is for the fans of the games, regardless if you played the older games or the new ones. It's the movie that everyone wanted to see in a film adaptation of Super Mario Bros., and then some. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is directed by Aaron Horvath, whose previous works include such projects as Teen Titans Go, Teen Titans Go! To the Movies, and Unikitty, and Michael Jelenic, whose previous works include such endeavors as Teen Titans Go, Teen Titans Go! To the Movies, and Batman, the Brave and the Bold. Given their history of working on various animated projects as well as the familiarity of collaborating together in the Teen Titans Go! Franchise, Horvath and Jelenic seem like a suitable duo to helm such an animated feature film on the Super Mario Bros. Franchise tag by bring the right amount of respect for the source material as well as making the whole experience memorable. To that end, I think that both directors succeed in shaping the movie to both of those counts. Of course, it's also to keep in mind that Nintendo themselves, unlike the 1993 live-action film, were much more heavily involved on the project, for it's quite clear from the character depictions, cameo appearances, and various sound effects and musical flourishes. As stated, the video game company Giant Bin has quite reluctant to have one of their IPs reimagined as a film adaptation since the 1993 film flopped, so, of course, they must have had a lot more involvement with the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which is quite visible throughout. Horvath and Jelenic also seemed to respect Nintendo's wishes and handled their source material with the utmost respect and positioned the movie to include the representation that the video game studio wanted. The result is something that delivers on that premise, with the movie approaching the source material in a faithful and playful manner, which feels much more genuine and entertaining than what the 1993 film was able to manage. Thus, the collaboration with Nintendo is well met in the movie, with Horvath and Jelenic approach the movie as a somewhat origin tale, introducing Mario and Luigi in sort of fish-out-water narrative framework as they met and fight in this strange new land of incredible powers and fearsome menaces. It also helps that Horvath and Jelenic, from the past endeavors, know what type of target audience that they are trying to reach and make the movie that much more enjoyable through the various comedic parts that scattered throughout the movie. Of course, this is a kids movie, which means a lot of the lowbrow humor, but some were actually pretty good with numerous sight/physical gags as well as some zippy one-liners and a few callbacks from the video game themselves. Also, the film's action is pretty good, which involves a lot of the familiar tropes from the Mario game themselves, with Horvath and Jelenic staging several key moments that certainly have fun replicating the onslaught of enemies encounters that is combined with several platform maneuvering. It's all conjured in a way that feels quite frenzy, but in a good way, which showcases the fun and enjoyment of the video game source material and keeps the feature moving at a brisk pace. In addition, the story, which was penned by Matthew Fogel, takes a more direct approach with the narrative, which can be both a good and bad thing, more on that below. Yet, it's quite clear that the story being told, like Horvath and Jelenic, is made for younger audiences, which is not a bad thing at all. The Mario games, for the most part, have always been geared towards the younger crowd, juice box to tween age range, so it sort of makes sense that the movie is catered towards that crowd. Thus, the reflection of the movie's story falls in line with that notion as it is a basic premise with a lot of movement and fighting happening. It's not the most deepest story out there in a cartoon film as well as playing it safe at times, yet Fogel's work speaks for the movie and the letting the animation have fun with this video game translation and presentation. It's a tried and true Super Mario plot, it just works as simple as that. All in all, I felt that Horvath and Jelenic did quite an impressive job with the Super Mario Bros. Movie, especially with the pressure from Nintendo to fully represent their iconic mascot the right way, of which they did, immensely. It's always entertaining, something to see, do, or experience, never dull, always on the move, and always chock full of fun and amusement in almost every scene. It's a video game movie done right, no matter which way you slice it. Of course, this brings up the noticeable cameos, callbacks, and references that appear in and out of the feature's story. While there are a bit too much to go around, they are definitely a treat of video game nostalgia whenever they appear. Some, of course, are a little bit more subtle than others, while other ones are quite obvious to recognize. Regardless, they are a lot of fun to point out and have that reminiscent feeling, especially for anyone who's played a Super Mario game, old ones or new ones. Definitely put a smile and slash or made me laugh when I spotted them. Naturally, the amount of fan service is heavily palpable in the Super Mario Bros. Movie and will surely please anyone looking for that nostalgia factor. There are times where some moments do get carried away and are merely there for a visual fan service scenes, including the famous inclusion of Mario Kart's Rainbow Road sequence. It's definitely fun and visually great to see, but doesn't really amount to much in the way of the story of the feature. Moments like those should have been saved for another movie, at least in my opinion. Still, for better or worse, fans looking for those Easter eggs, references and callbacks to the Mario games are in for a power-up delight in the film, with Horvath and Jelenic, as well as Nintendo themselves, letting this animated movie run amok with a facade of video game nostalgia, and that's kind of good thing. In the feature's presentation, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is absolutely and hands down a visually stunning animated film that is the best that Illumination Entertainment has ever produced. Usually, the studio's cartoon production have always been very vibrant and colorful throughout their endeavor features, with the Super Mario Bros. Movie showcasing the best that the animated studio has to offer, with such bright and luminous coloring of various objects, characters, and background. In addition, Illumination Entertainment has always been known for generating such intricate physical details within their various characters, be it major or minor ones, via body motion and slash or facial expression. Thus, to lend their expertise in bring such memorable Nintendo video game characters to the big screen is some impressive work by the digital artisans. Every detail of how the character looks, size and shape, and facial movements are superb all the way around. Great job. Thus, all the film's behind-the-scenes team from the art department to animators should be commended for their efforts on the feature and bring to life these beloved Nintendo characters, and landscape, in such gorgeous way that is a visual feast for the eyes. In addition, the film's sound department team, including Daniel Laurie, Jacob Rila, and Randy Tom, is excellent throughout the entire film, especially since you hear all the iconic sounds from the Super Mario games, including the jump sounds, brick breaking, and other famously heard sound bites from the classic games. Even beyond those points, the sound mixing and editing for the feature is quite good and helps build upon the feature's world, from Bowser's booming footsteps to whooshing sounds of characters zooming by on carts down Rainbow Road. While I usually don't mention this particular category that often in my reviews for movies, I do mention it when it becomes a credible part of my likability towards the project. Thus, big kudos to the sound department in what they were able to achieve on this movie. Lastly, the movie's score, which was composed by Brian Tyler, is fantastic from beginning to end. It's filled such grandiosity and bombastic feeling throughout that helps the feature explode off-screen within Tyler's musical composition. In addition, Tyler's score utilizes a lot of Koji Kondo's classic Mario themes that are scattered throughout the feature, which is delightful treat to hear them in the film and how Tyler himself incorporates it and rearranged it. The result is something truly spectacular to hear, and the film's score is definitely a beautiful soundtrack, even for an animated film. There are some problems that I noticed that the Super Mario Bros. Movie can't overcome, which results in a few wonky moments here and there and some criticism drawing towards the film's shaping. What do I mean? Well, for starters, the movie's plot is rather simplistic and lacks substance in several few crucial areas. Of course, much like the earlier Super Mario games, the film doesn't have a very deep or engaging narrative to tell, with the cartoon feature replicating that notion of a very rudimentary plot for us, the viewers, to follow along. Naturally, this movie is made for kids in mind, so a lot of story beats are presented in a way for them to follow and enjoy. Because of this notion, the story for the Super Mario Bros. Movie is rather basic and goes a little too light on certain scenes and scenarios that play out throughout the feature's rather brisk runtime, more on that below. Particular narrative and plot beats are very simple and doesn't have a whole lot going on beyond Mario's quest to find/rescue the brother as well as Peach's determination to stop Bowser's conquest. There's definitely, at times, when one can easily see story substance that could have been easily interjected into the plot, which would have bolstered the narrative in a better and more well-rounded way. Just because it is a kids' movie doesn't mean that would have been beneficial for more storytelling beats in the overall arc plot. Coinciding with that, the movie itself moves at a rather brisky pace, as mentioned above, and, while that can be both a good or bad thing, depending on the viewer, the negative side of it is that it lacks at time for the feature, and the characters, to breath, with Horvath and Jelenix keeping everything moving in a rather rushed manner. This results in the movie lacking that certain type of finesse and feels like everything happens too fast-paced and not enough for character growth/reflection. There were times where I felt that movie could have expanded upon some certain ideas and added an additional scene here and there to help bolster character motivation and/or made the entire endeavor a good 10 or so minutes longer, while also reworking a few scenes. A scene in the beginning of the movie felt a little bit drawing out involving the brothers working on a bathroom plumbing. It is because of this that most of the characters, while genuinely fun, are rather broad and more theatrically bold within their video game translation. This particular point of criticism didn't necessarily bother me as much as I went into the movie sort of expect this, but I know that some people were looking for a bit more dynamic character range in some of these iconic video game characters. In addition, the movie also does lack a good strong thematic message to walk away with this. Naturally, I wasn't expecting something like Disney or Pixar Endeavor, which usually delivers a poignant meaning, but Illumination Entertainment has offered, in the past, some good, wholesome messages in the animated undertaking as seen in The Grinch, Sing, and Despicable Me. The Super Mario Bros. Movie, while not the most heartfelt and/or feel-good movie to come out of children's entertainment, definitely showcased signs of some of these thematic message, yet doesn't go beyond that the more common tropes of we can do anything if we work together. While this may be a little bit of nitpick criticisms, there are genuine moments in the movie where they show some motivation and heartfelt commentary, especially into two flashback scenes. It's just a little bit of shame because what's presented in those two scenes could have easily been expanded upon in a way that could have given a better context to some of the characters. What definitely helps overlook those points of criticisms is the film's voice cast, which is excellent across the board, and having some capable and talented individuals to bring these Nintendo characters to life in a fun and energetic way. Leading the charge in the movie and headlining the feature as the main protagonist character is actor Chris Pratt, who provides the voice for the titular video game mascot character of Mario. Pratt, who is known for his work in the Guardians of the Galaxy, Jurassic World, and the Lego Movie, has certainly become a wide popular actor over the years and becoming a more and charismatic leading man in many of his film projects. Thus, it comes at no surprise that Pratt would be headlining a cartoon lead role once again and surely does deliver on very solid performance in the role of Mario. Of course, this brings up the whole controversy of Pratt doing the voice for Mario and not someone who is ethnically Italian, correspond to the character, or even voiced by longtime video game voice for the character Charles Martinet. Does Pratt sound like an Italian-American born in the movie? Well, not exactly, but I don't find it a big deal. Pratt does good, in my opinion, and brings a lot of energy to the character, whose goes on a very straightforward narrative of self-discovery and self-worth, and that's fine. So, those worried about it, it didn't bother me at all and I don't think that many will be bothered by it as well. Overall, I felt that Pratt did a good job as Mario and proves that he still can handle an animated cartoon character voice with good timing and lovable angsts. Behind Mario, actor Charlie Day does the vocal performance for the character of Luigi, Mario's brother, in the movie. Day, who is known for his roles in Horrible Bosses, Pacific Rim, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, has always a very comedic charm throughout most of his endeavors, as been a fast-talking character with some slapstick physical gags. His performance in the Super Mario Bros. Movie is indeed a welcome sight and speaks to today's catalog with his high-pitched squeaks when he gets excitable. Yet, there is still an underlying different tone with Luigi, in comparison to Pratt's Mario, which definitely fits the character. The only problem that I have with Luigi in the movie is that he isn't in much of the middle portion of the feature, which serves as a huge chunk of the feature. It felt like the script had indeed planned something for him to do during this portion, but was cut out due for a much more tighter runtime. What's in the film still works, but I kind of wished that Luigi had more to do. Perhaps they are saving it for another movie, a possible sequel, or maybe a spin-off, maybe a Luigi's Mansion type project. Also, of the main roster of characters, actress Anya Taylor-Joy provides the voice for Princess Peach Toadstool, the ruler of the Mushroom Kingdom and who becomes a companion with Mario on his journey. Taylor-Joy, who is known for her roles in The Menu, Queen's Gambit, and Emma, has become a widely known actress, whose projects definitely speak for herself. Thus, to have her inclusion in the Super Mario Bros. Movie is quite a treat, and I think that she handles the part well. Apart from a few games in the series, the character of Princess Peach has always been somewhat damsel in distress archetype of the narrative, so it's kind of nice to see the character have a bit more to do in the story. Plus, Taylor-Joy definitely gives off a very strong and determined voice for Peach, which, again, speaks to the character itself and to the modern age. All in all, both Day and Taylor-Joy are quite good in their respective character roles. Overshadowing these particular main players in the movie would definitely have to be the character of Bowser, the film's main antagonist character, and who is voiced by actor Jack Black. Much like the other Mario characters, Bowser has been most of the time the main bad guy that Mario and his friends have to defeat in each of the games, so it was definitely a foregone conclusion that the character would be the big bad in this movie. From the visual detail alone, Bowser in the Super Mario Bros. Movie is fantastic, and he is clearly everything that made him a formidable villain. He's big, furious, and has his mind set on marrying Princess Peach as well as claiming all underneath his dominion. So, from a character's translation point of view, the movie nails it. What's even better than that is that Black, who is known for his roles in School of Rock, Kung Fu Panda, and King Kong, is involved on this project and certainly brings his charismatic and comedic charm to the proceedings. He's loud, boisterous, and almost downright funny at times, which makes the combination of him as a bad guy that much more endearing. Black influences the iconic Bowser with his own personality, which makes for such a memorable capture of the Nintendo Badu. Plus, the song Peaches that he sings in the film is hilarious. All in all, no matter what a person might think of the film or other cast members who provide voice work for these video game characters, there's simply no denying the fact that Jack Black perfectly embodies his interpretation of the character of Bowser in the film and ends up being the most memorable one of their cast. In addition, voice actor Kevin Michael Richardson, Lilo and Stitch and Young Justice, provides a fun and even-keel performance as Kamek, a Koopa sorcerer and Bowser's advisor/informant. For the more supporting players in the movie, the film boasts plenty of side characters that help bolster the main roster of characters, with most being recognizable players from the Nintendo franchise. This includes actor Keegan-Michael Key, Keanu and the Predator, as fast-talking companion to both Mario and Peach named Toad, actor Fred Armisen, Saturday Night Live and Portlandia, as the ruler of the Jungle Kingdom and commander of the Kong army called Cranky Kong, also labeled as DK's father rather than in the video games as his grandfather, and actor Seth Rogen, Superbad and Steve Jobs, as the powerful and strong gorilla and heir to the throne of the Jungle Kingdom Donkey Kong. These characters, who are famously known in their respective Nintendo realm of video games, are clearly represented in the feature with a much more broader stroke of characterization. Not that I was expecting them to be completely well-rounded with intricate backstory details, but these characters are great comical relief as well as for visual sight gags, which is clearly represented in the film as well as the capable and humorous voice talents behind them. All around, these characters are great supporting players. Also, I forgot to mention that the character of Lumali, one of the prisoner that Bowser has captured, is one of the best supporting characters in the film. While the appearance in the overall story is small, but Lumali, who is voiced by Juliette Jelinek, is hilarious whenever appearing on screen and spouts some of the most hilarious lines of depressive melancholy nuances that will instantly make you laugh. Rounding out the rest of the cast includes actor Sebastian Maniscalco, Green Book and the Irishman, as Mario/Luigi's former boss Spike, actor Kari Payton, The Walking Dead and Teen Titans Go, as the Penguin King, actor Eric Bauza, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Mighty Ones, as Toad General, actor Reno Romano, Curious George and Resident Evil 4, as Uncle Tony, actor John DiMaggio, Futurama and Adventure Time, as Uncle Arthur, and actress Jessica DeSico, The Loud House and Adventure Time, as Mario/Luigi's mom as minor supporting characters in the film. Of course, most of these characters have small parts in the film, but still offer up colorful and solid voice acting in whatever capacity their character's screen time is. In addition, renowned voice actor for Mario, in the video games, Charles Martinet makes a cameo appearance in the film as both Mario/Luigi's dad as well as Brooklyn resident Giuseppe. Lastly, the film does have two post-credit scenes at the end of the film, with one being a mid-credit one and the other appearing at the very end of said credits. While I won't spoil what is shown during those two particular scenes, both are fun little additional scenes, with one specifically teases what, or rather who, is possibly coming in the potential sequel installment, if one ever materializes, which is almost a foregone conclusion. Unwillingly warped into another world and on a mission to save his brother, Mario embarks upon a quest to discover his true potential as a hero as well as stopping the evil tyranny of Bowser in the movie The Super Mario Bros. Movie. Director Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenek's latest film takes Nintendo's beloved Italian plumber, and all of his friends and enemies, and translates it into an animated cinematic endeavor that will surely please longtime fans of the video game character. While the feature skimps on story substance and moves a little bit too fast-paced, the movie is an explosive cartoon tale of an epic spectacle, including the production's direction, wonderful animation, a fantastic score, great visual moments, a strong and likable cast of both characters and acting talents, with special praise for Black's performance, and, most importantly, faithful to its video game source material. Personally, I really liked this movie. Yes, it had some problems with this narrative telling and some moments offered nothing that just extended fan services, quips and depictions, but the end result is something truly wonderful, fun, and just a downright treat for anyone who's played a Mario game, at any point of your life. Thus, my recommendation for this movie is a highly favorable, highly recommended, especially for a kid-friendly feature project for the whole family as well as the fans of the Mario games, again, no matter how old you are. The conclusion of the picture leaves the door open for a continuation sequel installment in the near future that, given the positive reviews for the movie as well as wealthy of source material that Nintendo has added over the years for Mario and friends, this idea is Super Mario Bros. Movie 2 almost seems like a nearly guaranteed. I, for one, would love to see it and to see such interesting ideas from the long-running franchise play a part in the narrative, including Wario, Rosalina, and even Geno. In the end, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, while not the most ingenious story to come out of a video game film adaptation, ends up to being the most entertaining of those endeavors and manages to rise to the challenge and overcome its misgivings by generating a visually animated pipe dream of Nintendo nostalgia and rambunctious fun for all ages. This film, directed by Aaron Horvath, written by Matthew Fogel, based on Mario, produced by Chris Meledandri, starring Chris Pratt, edited by Eric Osmond, music by Brian Tyler. Production company's Illumination. Distributed by Universal Pictures. Release dates April 1, 2023. Running time 92 minutes. Country United States. Language English. Budget $100 million. Box office $1.361 billion.